Well, hello, welcome into a fresh edition of Chi Time with me, Clara Apollo. And as you know, if you're a welcome listener to this platform, that we look at the energy behind everything, what's going on behind the scenes, and how that can help you tune into what's really going on with you, what's going on behind your scenes, what is it that your heart really wants you to hear, and what is it you really need to be doing for yourself in this day and age. So if you're new to the show, that's what we get up to on this show. So welcome in, and yeah, I'm just going to get right into our guest here because I am so pleased that Pam Gregory has said yes to coming into the show again. So welcome back into Chi Time, Pam.
Great to be with you, Clara, always. Yeah, real joy. We've
Mm.
known each other, quite some years, so it's always a pleasure.
I know Pam actually came in on when Tea Time was on a radio show on Express FM. I think Richard Ellis introduced us, didn't he? And
Yeah.
that was fun. In fact, that's somewhere on SoundCloud. I want to dig it out one day, just to make us both giggle. But so as the top astrologer that you are, many thousands, probably even millions of people are looking at you for guidance at this time. And I'm just curious, what got you, very briefly, what got you into astrology back in the day? What was it that called
Yeah,
you in?
yeah, literally the day after I finished university, I got on a plane and flew to Toronto, which I'd wanted to do from about the age of 14. No job, didn't know anyone, way before the age of mobile phones, had $100 in my pocket. And in the first week, I joined a yoga class, and there was a big guy there from Jamaica. And at the end of the class, a couple of the girls said, he's an astrologer. So I went up to him and said, look, I know absolutely nothing about this, but I'd love you to do my chart. And I saw him the following weekend, and I spent 7 hours with him,
Wow.
and the world just cracked open. I remember it
Excellent.
like it was yesterday. I remember it so clearly. And bizarrely, his name was Aster, which is quite close to Latin for star, Astra.
Ooh,
And he disappeared soon after that. And I think he was just an earth angel reconnecting
yes.
with the subject. And I haven't stopped studying from that point on. Yeah,
Gosh, it feels like that was your destiny, to completely
completely. Yeah,
you
I've done this before. Yeah.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
it's not the first
exactly.
time we've been around the track. Yeah.
And so many of us look to astrology to help us with the guidance, because this day and age that we are in, it is chaotic out there. There's no rule books anymore. There's like, what do we do? Where can we look for salient information? And you bring this through so deftly and clearly, but also with room for maneuver. Everyone's got their own expression coming through. But I also love how you relate things back to the past, when the planets have been in alignment similarly in the past, because that kind of helps us to recognize that there's this evolution going on. We're going around the spiral, aren't we? We're picking up a themes as we're going round, and it's kind of growing and building. And I just feel that this is reassuring in some way, that there is a pattern or a path there, or there is guidance that we can look at. And but how that resonates with us. So this theme of the river beneath the river, the energy that underpins everything. If we've got this coming from the stars, that the information from the stars is giving us clear insights. How is that resonating with the energy that's on the planet Earth to help us actually put that into action with our choices?
Yeah, because what the planets give us, they don't dictate to us. We always have free will, but they give us sort of urges and desires in particular directions. So, for instance, if you look at a planet like Uranus, it will always give you the urge for freedom. I don't want to play by the rules. I want to be a maverick. I want to be original, creative, break up stale patterns. Um, with Mars, you tend to be energized about something and very activated about something. So they each have very different archetypes with very different messages. And it's really just like a cosmic weather forecast. So if we understand the weather forecast, we're not dictated to by the weather forecast, but it gives us a more informed choice. If I'm watching the cosmic weather forecast and I know there's a massive rainstorm coming, I can make a better choice because I can say I either go out in rubber wear or I stay at home until the rainwater,
Rubberware.
the rainstorms are over, or whatever.
Yes,
You can
yes, yes,
make a
yes.
more informed choice than if you didn't know what the forecast was. So
Exactly.
that's really how astrology works. It increases your choice because
Yes.
you now have more information that's useful. Doesn't dictate your choice, doesn't it's not predetermined in that way, it's not fated. It gives you richer information to make your choice. But it
Which
is
is
it's a big time of massive rapid change, which can feel very destabilizing for a lot of people.
that's the thing, and with the amount of information coming in from so many different sources now, this is an unprecedented time, isn't it? Our nervous systems are overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And all of us are being affected by this. And what happens is that it skews our perception of reality, doesn't it? Because we just haven't got all our wherewithal, have we? We're like exhausted, and the nervous system then, kind of throws up different symptoms, and you're just like, how am I meant to cope with this? And there's something that you always speak about when you do your videos is this self-care practice. So I'm curious to know, what is Pam Gregory's self-care practice?
um well, for me, because just to sort of step back from it, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we have so many important planets going into air. And air, Gemini and Aquarius really are connected to the nervous system. Um,
Okay.
Aquarius is higher mind, but it's ruled by Uranus, so it can get kind of fritzed and fried. It can, really high vibe, really kind of too buzzed up with technology and input. Gemini also, is the mind. It's ruled by Mercury, it's the mind. And so with both of those very, very highlighted, Pluto is in Aquarius for another 20 years.
Mm.
Jupiter has literally on the 25th of May, 2 days ago, just moved into Gemini. We also have Sedna on the 27th of April, just moved into Gemini until 2067. Uranus is going to move into Gemini for 7 years next year. We have a lot of air energy. So we're moving from slowness, density of earth and water planet signs being emphasized that we've had for many, many years, really through our lifetime of, job for life, home for life, sort of permanency,
Mm, mm.
to rapidity and an enormous amount of kind of mental overload,
Mm.
potentially. Fascinating stuff, fascinating ideas
Yes,
and solutions and technologies.
absolutely.
And what about this? And what about this? And what about this? But it's so easy particularly with Gemini energy, to get very
Yes.
scattered, distracted out there, and we kind of we lose that connection to our anchor, to our center and self. So
Mm, mm.
for me, I'm just such a country bumpkin, as you know, Clara, but just stay in nature. Bare feet on the grass. If we ever see a sliver of sunshine in the, bare
Wouldn't that
feet.
be nice?
We've had a horrific winter,
Oh,
bare feet on the grass, connect to nature, hug a tree. I go out every morning in the woods, as you know. You've been with me on these walks, and they are non-negotiable in any weather.
right, really.
They are
Yes,
non-negotiable because even though the
yes.
weather has been really punishing this winter, you are still in nature, you're still
We
being
are.
nurtured, you're still feeling with all of your senses, the trees, etc. And the Japanese call it forest bathing,
They
don't
do. Yeah, yeah.
and it's very soothing for the nervous system. So
Exactly.
so that is a big, big area of non-negotiability for me on a daily basis. But I would
Right.
also say something you're very keen on, Clara. It's breath work and just dropping into stillness, deliberately saying, I'm no longer going down the scroll hole. Book a business meeting with yourself for stillness.
Oh, I
Because
love it.
in my old world, if I had a
Mm.
business meeting booked, I couldn't miss it. I couldn't just say I'm not turning
Sure.
up. So I book business meetings with myself for stillness.
I
At a
love
certain
it.
point in the day, that's my business meeting with stillness. And I will
Hmm.
not let myself down because I know how important that is to get the balance. Otherwise, with the input I have, which is enormous on a daily basis, 7 days a week, I can just spin off to the stratosphere.
Yeah.
I get around 2,000 or so messages and emails per day before I start my daily schedule, before I start the writing, the research, the filming, the interviews, the conversations.
Yes.
It is gigantic. And so I have to book stillness time. Otherwise, I would just, be beyond help. I
Yes.
just spun off to the
Yes.
stratosphere. So, but
So
for
it is.
everybody, even if you don't have that much coming in at you, we all tend to be very drawn into social media, and even more than we used to. It's snippets of information. That's Gemini, that's TikTok, that's X, used to be Twitter.
Mm.
Snippet, look over here, look over here, look over here. And we
Pop
get
up, pop up. Look at me
absolutely.
here, look at me there.
That's how our neural network works in bits. Our neural
Right.
network is being trained to work in distraction and in
Yeah.
scatter.
So this is taking your energy away from you. Anything like that is like, come over here, shiny things over here, do this course here, do that there, do that. And everything is designed to take you away from yourself. Now,
Yes,
don't get me wrong, a lot of it's very interesting, but it's being able to discern what is right. And so you're so right. I love that, booking a stillness meeting with yourself, because it is absolutely paramount that we know that place of stillness and that we keep returning to it, because the more we return to it, the stronger that becomes, which means if we've only got a few minutes to be able to drop into stillness, we can get there because we've done the pre-training practice. And yeah, I like my well, the Buddhist qigong is actually the breath work, and that is really coming into the very simple mindfulness that I'm sure a lot of you listening or watching are aware of, coming into the breath. And just what I've been doing, suggesting for people say, "Oh, I can't meditate. I'm just too much," which is often happens. You want to meditate, but it's got too many things to do. How can I do it? You say you have to prioritize and go, I am important. My sanity, my nervous system is really paramount. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to do what I want. So, coming into just following the breath and counting with the breath, literally just counting every breath. What is it my teacher would say? Count from 1 to 10, each on the out breath. You're counting with the out breath. And if you get distracted, you can't remember what number you're at, go back to the beginning, start at 1 again. So you do from 1 to 10, then you go 1 to 10, and you gradually train yourself to be able to do that. And I thought that was a really good bit of information to remind ourselves, for those of us who are so busy, that are looking for methods to get into this stillness practice. Because there's this focus on flow, and I mean, it's pouring down with rain here, just as he's talking about the weather. Oh, here in Somerset, more rain. And it's in flow, and it's clearing, and it's lovely. But without stillness, we wouldn't have that time to regroup ourselves and regenerate ourselves. So I think those of us chat about the flow state, remember the still state as well, is absolutely paramount, isn't it?
Yeah, and you make a really good point, Clara, that it's the habit. So the stillness becomes your default point, not the scroll hole. So that becomes dominant because that's your center, that's your power, that's your anchor, and that's your radio dial, really, that you get into the feeling of everything. My whole life, my reality comes from here, not out there.
Yes.
Because if you're scattering, you're giving away your power all the time to external sources. You're giving away your power to Facebook, X, TikTok. You're giving away your energy. It has to come from here. And the only way it can come from here is dropping into stillness, breath work, meditation, the turning inwards to get to that default point of my reality comes from here. My
Yes.
identity comes from here.
Yes.
Everything in life comes from here. And I'm in charge of it rather than all of that stuff being in charge of me.
Right. So it's empowering. And I think when you relate that place to your heart as well, when you come back into that barometer of truth,
Yeah.
then not only are you coming into a stillness place for yourself, but you're also nurturing your heart frequency, aren't
Yeah.
you? Which I know that you speak about loads and loads and loads. This is the frequency to focus on,
Yeah.
isn't it?
100%, because there's so much astrologically about the mind coming up for
Right.
decades, for the rest of our life. There's
Oh,
so much about the mind, information, ideas. It's going to be fascinating, and it's going to
yes.
be very fascinating. It's going to be very exciting, but it will be very easy to lose that focus. So absolutely, the heart is the antidote to this. And imagine that you're breathing in and out through the heart.
I know.
It's a very simple, it's the heart math. That's a yogic practice as
Yes.
well. And that's really beautiful to cultivate that sense of loving self and loving others. Yeah, that's absolutely vital.
And it's the practice of loving kindness. It comes up and again across all traditions. Heart energy connects us all, and then it helps us make more informed choices. More, I always think that the mind is as brilliant as it is. Really, if we can harness it to be in service to the heart, that's where that synergy can take us into the new way of new earth. Really, getting the mind and the heart to work together.
Yeah,
Yes.
and the heart is absolutely vital that because so many people feel they lack love in their lives. And we
Mm.
can only experience in our reality that which we have embodied as an energy. So if you feel there isn't enough love in your life, you have to feel love within yourself, for yourself, before you experience it in your reality. You have to feel peace within yourself before you can see it in your reality. So when people say to me, so, when are we going to see New Earth? Well, actually, that frequency is already here, but it's only when you can feel it inside yourself that you're going to start to see the people, the businesses, you're going to start to see new species emerging, all kinds of aspects of New Earth once you've embodied that feeling within yourself. And that's what my 15-minute meditations on a Sunday evening are all about. People are
Brilliant.
having the most amazing experiences there. They're experiencing New Earth. And we're
Yes.
going to see more and more of that as we move into next year, 25, 26, etc. But we are creating it as humanity. Nobody else
Yes.
is. We are doing it. And that's very empowering.
So I'm glad that you brought up your meditations. This is on a Sunday evening, every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. UK. Pam just calls us together. She doesn't open a Zoom room, doesn't do it on YouTube. She just says, I'm going to be there. This is just so genius, Pam, because you're calling people to prioritize their meditation, but to come into a field
Yeah.
within the New Earth community. So,
Aquarian. It's very Aquarian.
yes,
We're all
it is
equal.
very
I'm not
Aquarian.
leading it. We're all leading it. We're all equal. Very Aquarian.
Yeah, but look where it's taking you. Like you say, people are having these experiences, and
It's
yet,
I'm stunned.
it's,
I'm thrilled.
yes. So this is the way through to hold each other in the field, but to give space for the individual components to, or the individual people, not just components, to actually empower themselves to keep choosing this self-care piece. And if other people are doing it, come in. Come in
Yeah.
with us alongside. You are welcome. Whatever stage of the game, we're all in this game of life together, aren't we? And I was interesting you were saying about we've been in this earth and water zone for quite a while and now we're moving into air. Do you feel that like because the earth is supportive and the water is buoyant, we've been given that as a basis to build upon to make sure we know what it is because we're going to need that
Yeah.
ballast, that anchor to be able to manage this earthy, this airy kind of mercurial marvelousness that's going to be
Absolutely. The fact,
occurring.
the earth is our grounding, but also water, as we know, so much is coming out about water, being so vital. And I had a wonderful conversation with Veda Austin this morning, who's, absolutely brilliant, exquisite work with water and crystallography. But there's something about water, and this is her term, that water is God consciousness. Water is divinity. It's foundational, it's primary, but there's also the light because the water embodies the light, carries the light, and of course that's always an electromagnetic frequency. And so we are learning, because if you think of the two jaggedy lines of the glyph of Aquarius, we are moving into an age where we are really going to understand everything is energy and frequency. We're really, really going to get that, whether that is the harmful frequency of EMFs and satellites and 5G and all of that, or better, mastering our own frequency, because when you master your own frequency, the world changes very rapidly, very rapidly. So with Pluto in Aquarius, there's a very clear choice. The symbolism can mean we are going to be controlled by technology. Look at the Chinese social credit system, if you don't know about that. Or the other choice, the other fork in the road, is we become masters of our frequency because we understand how our thinking works, how our emotion works, how our heart works, and we are in charge. And I'd suggest that route is a much better way to
Yeah, yeah,
go.
absolutely. But it's sort of trusting yourself, and I think this it's remembering that we are made up of what, all the elements and stardust, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, yes,
and
yes.
so part of us is heavenly, part of us comes from the cosmos, and just remembering that it's an absolute miracle that any of us exist. It's just, we forget this. We forget it because it's so everyday life. It's like, hang on a minute, this is a miracle. My existence is a miracle. And like a lot of the spiritual teachers would say, with this awe and wonder of life, when you acknowledge that, something happens to your frequency, to your presence, to your waters, indeed. And
100%, because it's that feeling of awe and wonder. It's almost like, the Zen beginner's mind. It's wow. If you look at a rose like it's the very first time you've ever seen a rose, or you look at the spring leaves and it's almost like it's the very first time, you can just go, wow, nature is so beautiful. It's so incredibly beautiful. And if you can get to that stage, which is very, so simple stuff, all for free, anybody can do it, then it raises your frequency into love for the oneness, and you can start to develop a sort of heightened sense of oneness and connection with all sentient beings, and that's a great place to be. That's where the Lemurians were, probably in the most perfect civilization we ever had.
oh, well, I knew you were going to mention Lemuria. I knew it would come through. It's been speaking to me a lot as well. The truth of that. So this is the river beneath. The river beneath the river. The energy behind it all is God consciousness, and we are all one. And it keeps coming back to that. And when we remember that, we have a really good excuse to love ourselves. It's
Yeah,
like, because we're loving the divine that's within us.
yeah,
It's a different form of, it's not like narcissism, and that I don't think that's love anyway. That's sort of adoration and weirdness. This is an acknowledgement of that you've been given this physical vehicle that can house a little bit of the God spark. It's like, oh, I'm going to be loving that then. It's like you sort of taking, nurturing that. And that nurturing energy is central to Qigong and a lot of practices, this yang shen. When you take care of yourself, oh my goodness, you open up to all sorts of other possibilities because you've self-cared. I mean, I know we keep going on about this, Pam, but I think all of us need to kind of remind each other that it's okay to look after yourself. It's okay to prioritize yourself. And this is why. Because if we are stepping up to being new earth beings, we want to be the best we can be, so that we can play and dance as well as be serious and make tricky decisions and all of that. The whole spectrum.
absolutely. And it goes back to the old thing about put your oxygen mask on yourself first,
Yes.
because otherwise you can't help anybody else in the plane. So the self-care doesn't come from ego, it comes from, I can help more people if I keep myself in a good state. Because if we get scattered and distracted and overwhelmed and mental struggles, etc., we can't help anybody. We can't help ourselves, we can't help anybody. And so we have to keep that very still center. And actually, I think it brings in a humility
Yeah.
with it, that we recognize we are each in service at this time. We each have a very unique piece of the puzzle. You certainly do, Clara. I know I have a unique piece of the puzzle in this. And even if your piece of the puzzle is small, you still can't complete the jigsaw without that final piece of the puzzle. So everybody is important. Everything
I agree.
matters. And it's that sense of humility that we are coming together, joining hands, joining hearts, which is what we do on a Sunday evening, and say, wow, we are creating this tsunami of love from nothing, from energy, for free, ordinary people regular people are doing this and creating an army, a tsunami of
Yes.
love. And I absolutely know we are changing the quantum wave structure. We are
Yes.
changing our future. Every
Yes.
week that energy gets stronger. The number of people who write to me and say, every week it's stronger. Every week there's more love. Every week there are more galactic beings coming in, loving galactic beings to help us. You know,
Mm.
every week there's more heart connection. And so, I mean, how easy is that?
Ah, I love it. So it doesn't have to be difficult. There's an ease. Where do you find the space to be able to soothe and smooth your
Yeah.
energy and into the ease? Doesn't have to be rocket science. But as you were speaking like that, I could also feel an immense amount of compassion,
Yeah.
compassion for the human condition, but for all of us that have got a lot on our plates, and we do as much as we can, but sometimes we have to say, I can't manage that right now.
Yeah.
I can't actually do that. And it's okay to be able to say no. What is it like? The art of saying no. Yes. Or sometimes if I've got a lot on my plate, I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be like in my meditations, ooh, what could I let go of today? Which is quite a new thing for me. So I think that's also worth looking at. What can you let go of?
I
And
think that's really important, especially with the amount of air that we've got, you know, from
mm,
now. You know, Jupiter's in Gemini for another year, Sedna's there till 2067, as I say. You know, Pluto's in Aquarius till 2044. We have a lot of the element of air, and that's mind, ideas,
but
but
it's
also mental
magic.
performance.
It's
Yeah, it's
magic. The air
very,
connects us all. The air
yeah,
is
yeah,
inspiration. It
yeah.
doesn't matter. It doesn't mind whose lungs it's going in. It could be my cats or that lovely dog that you walk, or our friends or people that we don't get on with. The air connects us all, which I think was why the pandemic showed us quite a lot around all of that. Um, so that the magic of the air element,
And
and
the air has water in it.
the air
And
has water
that's
vapor in
right.
it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to breathe.
Yeah, yeah. Water
Would
is
we?
everywhere
It
in the
is.
plasma, everywhere in the universe. Little water droplets.
Yes.
Stars apparently just explode into water on a regular basis, which is incredible. And some of the water we are drinking, which contains the light, it's the medium for the light,
Yes.
is at least 4.5 billion years old. Dr. Jude Currivan, the cosmologist, said some of the water we drink now is older than our sun. So you drink it, I drink it, the slugs, the snails, the animals, the African people, the Chinese
Yes.
people, the horses, the dogs, the cat. It's the great connector, as Veda calls it.
It's
You know, so
like air.
it's
The air
that,
and water are both connected. They both hold oxygen and chi
yeah,
information, don't they?
absolutely. So that takes out racism, separation, polarity,
Yes.
red, blue, I'm right, you're wrong. It's a great equalizer because we're all drinking the same water and breathing the same air, essentially.
Yes, yes. So there's an honoring of those elements, and that's so when we're this is a little play with this with my people that come in and play qigong with me. We're talking about the water element and how we can make sounds, and the sounds will reverberate in our waters like the cymatics, and therefore it's important how you speak to yourself. And I was saying also, having a bit of fun, all the water you produce in your urine, if it's got a good vibe to it, it means that you're letting that go into the world, just as if you're breathing out positive chi, positive frequencies, and you're emanating it. Whatever you release, if you can release with Positivi-Chi, then that is going to add something else. Another little component can be added. And all of us can do that, just that mindful awareness of, although things are waste and we tend to look toxic and all of that, there's still an energy of us within that because of the water component.
Yeah, and apparently urine is incredibly well-structured water.
Yeah.
I mean, some people are into urine therapy,
Therapy.
you
They
know,
are. They are.
because it's very structured and apparently very healthy if you're unwell to drink your. But anyway, I
Yes.
know that
Anyway.
palatable for many listeners. So
Especially in the but so this is bringing us all into sort of self-presence, that we are responsible for how we feel for ourselves, how we respond to things that are coming in, how we can come into that stillness within, how we can anchor into the earth and to the heart of the cosmos as well as the heart of ourselves, and create this sphere or this energy around us. I refer to it as a sphere of light. I actually have a new meditation on my website around all of that, because I think it's absolutely imperative that we keep our immediate air around us really high frequency. And if you see it as in like a sphere, there's a like a shimmering boundary, so that you're not kind of dissipating your energy, that it's actually there, and it can then be taken wherever you go. And anyone that's in the same frequency as you can come in and dance or chat or whatever. Anyone that's not can just, drop away or go down into the earth, or just probably won't even be interested. But I also feel that if we do activate our spheres of light, we also can encourage the spheres of light within other people to ignite and remind them
Absolutely. Yeah.
of their presence, of their choices, of their unique. Everyone has a heart. Everyone has this potential to choose love. And just I can feel it here. I can know this is so much about what you're about as well. It's almost like there's no excuse. There's really no excuse anymore, is there?
Why wouldn't you? It's a win-win, and it's so important. It's like the Gore-Tex golden bubble, isn't it? Because you can still let good energy in, but you're kind of impermeable to lower frequencies.
Yeah.
The Gore-Tex golden bubble that might catch on. But if more of us did that, we all join our bubbles together if we're on a similar frequency,
Yes.
and then it becomes contagious across the world. And with some people that when they enter a room, it's like they light up the room because they just have so much light around them.
Yes.
And this is where we need to get to. And it's I once made a video called The Power of the Invisible, because
Mm,
that's where the power lies, in the invisible.
yes.
Because tomorrow's invisible. People think it's like a film set, which is, it's got a plan, and it's a scary plan, and it's very oppressive. No,
Mm,
there may be proposals, but nothing is set. We create from the invisible. And the
yes.
more of us come together, you don't even have to have the detail of it. You just have to stay in those very high frequency emotions of
Mm,
joy, love, gratitude, peace. Freedom is a big one.
yes.
My rolling mantra in the morning: I live in love, joy, bliss, gratitude, freedom. And it's like rosary beads. It's like a rolling
Yes.
mantra.
Yes.
And again, if we're emanating that, then we create more of it in the world.
Exactly. It's simple. And it's a practice that when you reiterate, as we were saying earlier, the pathways get stronger. And so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
recognize the frequency of it. And I think this healing power of presence is something that has really dropped in hugely. Now, Pam, you're such a star you're such a star when you talk about the astrology, because you often bring in the mythology. And I'm thinking the story of Homer was really, how she can grow plants and food from anywhere.
Yeah, with her magic
Absolutely.
stick, the Macaulay, even though the land is laid waste with chemicals or bad agricultural practice, she can just summon it.
Yeah,
This is what
yeah,
we're going to see. I think that there are going to be new species of food, new ways of growing food.
yes, yeah, and this is so important with the People's Food and Farming Alliance as well, which I'm sure we could go off down that tangent, but let's bring it back in, because I was also wanted to mention Sedna, who
Yeah.
when you first introduced me to her and told us the story about how she was in the boat with her dad and he chopped her fingers off when she tried to get back in. I'm like, oh, I don't like this story. And then you carried on with the story going, yeah, but her fingers then grew these new species. And I'm like, oh, wow, that is such a metaphor for people's lives when they've had a hard time,
Yeah.
to know that something good can come from this.
Yeah, and there's a big myth around betrayal by the patriarchy. Obviously,
Yes.
father didn't come that well out of that story. When the chips were down, he did not, he was very much into service to self,
Yes.
love for his daughter. So, there is some very obvious betrayal myths in there, but nevertheless, she didn't just transform, she metamorphized, if that's a verb, into these beautiful new sea creatures, which we hadn't had before, of turtles and whales and dolphins, these beautiful creatures. So something amazing came from that. And
Yeah.
I think, we are in a place in history where we've never been before, where it isn't just going to be a kind of linear evolution in
Mm.
the way we've had it in the past. It's going to be a jump. It's going to be in a way that I can barely describe, but I just have a sense of a kind of quantum leap of we are going to be so changed as a species, with our psychic sensitivity, developing our light body, developing greater telepathy, healing, in many different ways. So it will be impossible to be dishonest because you can just see people's energy field. It will just not be possible. So we'll relate with much more love. That's how I see it going forwards. And I do think we'll have a lot of new species appearing that will bring medicines to the fore. I mean, I've mentioned a couple of times that it was about 2 months ago, a gigantic underwater mountain range was discovered off the coast of Chile that they didn't know existed. And on the underwater mountain range, there was all this incredible algae with new species. Well, I think the sea is going to give us so much information and medicine. I can see new medicines coming from the sea, new food coming from the sea in a way that we've absolutely never known it before. There's so much that the deep sea is going to tell us because Sedna, that's linked to her myth. And it's kind of weird. People, when I talk about myths, people think it's kind of weird and abstract, and how does that have any relevance in my life? But amazingly, it always seems to start to appear in our collective reality in a way that is very parallel to the mythology. So that's why I think there's going to be an awful lot about the sea, about the water, about new species, new food. It's going to be very
Yes.
different going forwards.
So fascinating as ever. So these Homer and Sedna and Chereclo, these aren't actually planets, are they? They're in this
Yep.
they
Homer and Sedna are dwarf planets,
dwarf planets. Okay, so
way, beyond the orbit of Pluto.
okay.
So Homer has, I think, a 289-year orbit beyond Pluto. Sedna
Hmm.
has an 11,400-year orbit.
Wow.
Way out. Chereclo has a shorter orbit. It's round about, from memory, sort of 50 years plus. And she's in the asteroid belt.
Right,
She's
that was
so
it.
she's closer in. But she has a beautiful myth. I just think
Oh,
of
Pam,
taking.
honestly, when you introduced me to Chereclo, my whole life changed. Um, but the depth of wisdom coming through this story. Maybe you can give us an overview of this, but thank you so much for the Chereclo information.
Yeah, I just adore Chereclo, and so many people
Mm.
do. I mean, she she's a soul midwife, so she's very present at times of transition of life to death, but she's also very present at times of shifts in consciousness, which of course is what we're going through at the moment. And she was the wife of Chiron, who had wounded himself with a poisoned arrow, and she helped to heal Chiron simply by holding sacred space. So to me, she represents the Buddhist eternal permanent state of being, that ground of being that the Buddhists talk about, where you don't even have to speak, you can heal people just by holding sacred space. And we all know people like this who just sit, they don't comment, they don't yatter at you or give you advice, they just sit and hold the energy to reflect it back to you so that you can heal and find solutions. I adore Chereclo, beautiful female energy and very present at the time. And she's in Aquarius too, another air sign. She's about 14 of Aquarius, 16 of Aquarius right now. And so again, more emphasis in air. But yeah, very beautiful mythology.
Very beautiful. Yeah, the presence, but also letting yourself be held by Chereclo. So, my hypnotherapy coach Nathan Simmons, who's a great fan of yours, he took this into a meditation and led us through a Chereclo meditation. And it was the stillest I'd been, the deepest that I'd ever been, in the presence of being held by her gracious wisdom and deep compassion and presence. It was just like really magical and profound. And as I said, this is what's changed. So the combination of you and Nathan together. And anyone else, what have you found connecting in with Chereclo? We'd love to know, or any of the topics that have come up through this conversation with Pam. Do drop us comments below. We'd love to continue this conversation, and I'm sure you know where to find Pam Gregory. Anyway, she's got her own super luxe YouTube channel, and it's pamgregory.com on the web. But you're not on Instagram, are you? No.
Not on Instagram, not on
TikTok.
Not on TikTok, not on X. At the moment, I'm only on Facebook.
Yeah.
Everybody else is a scammer. Telegram, I'm not on, so they're all scammers.
So
Don't
do
give
you,
personal details, don't give money. But I am going to migrate to Orion as well very soon, Orion Messenger, which is Robert Edward Grant's new social media
is
platform.
it? Orion, a great name for a messenger service, I must say. We do
Perfect.
need these ways to communicate, but all these distraction tools and techniques, if we're using them, if we're putting out content on them, aren't we part of the problem? Because we're the one going, come look at me, come look at me. No one talks about this, do they? They're like, oh,
We
actually,
are,
maybe.
and it's very difficult. So what I try and put out, I hope is helpful and can take people quite deep, as opposed to just
Yes,
any kind of
exactly.
tittle tattle scandal, latest conspiracy theory, all of that.
Don't need that.
It's none of that. I'm just trying to almost be like Chereclo, be there as a holding
Yes,
vessel
that's right.
and say, it's okay, guys, we're all in this together. We're all holding hands. We're connecting with our hearts. We are changing our future timeline, you know,
And
join humanity.
yeah. Yeah, and that's it. And you've got people that follow you, that know you and love you and appreciate you. They get it. They come in for this quality that you deliver. And I just love how you've not done the scattering thing. It's like, no, I'm not going to play that game. So well done you. I think we could learn a lot from you, the way that you manage it all.
I've got to
Is,
walk my talk, Clara.
yeah, well done. Is there any last thing that you'd like to share with listeners and viewers before we go this time?
I think just to reiterate, book stillness meetings with yourself. Connect to nature as much as you can, bare feet on the earth, hug a tree, listen to the birds, simple, simple, simple stuff. And try and find joy in as many moments. Don't listen to the news, switch the news, just get rid of your television. It's always negative. So really just have a sense of finding joy in the bird song, finding joy, ecstasy actually in a blue sky when it comes around here. Find excuses to find joy in your day.
That is so beautiful. Thank you so much, Pam, for being part of Chi Time again.
It's been wonderful to be with you as always, Clara. You always ask great questions. Lots of
Oh,
love,
that comes.
everybody.
Lots of love
Bye
to you
for
all.
now.
Let's have a little dong out with our heart frequency bell, shall we? Thank
Beautiful. I must get one of those. That goes right through me.
you. This was Sandy Humbies. Thank you, Sandy. You know, it's one of my faves. Get her back on soon. Anyway, thank you all so much for listening and watching. Really look after yourselves. Your energy is so important, and so is your presence. Yeah. And thanks so much for listening to Chi Time, to me and Pam Gregory, the superstar. Next
To love
time.
everyone. Bye
So,
for now.
bye.